You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast with Sinan and Kaan Bayazit.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru aksiyonlar gitti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Roma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
All right, ready to go? Welcome back, everybody. Episode 84 of Beşiktaş International's The Black Eagles podcast. I am your host, Sinan, coming at you live from New York City, as always. And with me today, we're going back to the old school, back to the original style. It is your favorite co-host, Kaan Bayazit, coming in from Belgium. How you doing, man?
A little tired, but we wanted to get this episode out on time, in a timely manner before our next game.
Well, yeah, at least.
And of course, the Europa League draw is on Friday. Trabzonspor playing on Thursday, so probably by the time you're listening to this, it'll be late Wednesday or Thursday. So hopefully Trabzon do well, get to qualify. So they're in the Europa League too. And then there's 4 Turkish clubs in the group stages of European football this year, and hopefully they'll do well, and we'll get to know our opponents. I'm very excited to see who we play in the Europa League this season.
It's as has been the tradition of late. It's coming together late, the whole roster, but it's coming together. I guess the difference this time around is that it's coming together quite nicely. Some pieces that are young and we could be seeing for some time to come. So it's been a weird summer, but yeah, sure enough, big news on the horizon, and it would be unprecedented, I think, to see so much of Turkey represented in Europe. Lately, that has not been the case, with some of the usual favorites ducking out early, losing to weird sides like Ostersunds and the like. So I'm Vardar, yeah. But so it's going to be great to see the rest of the league represented a little bit. It's a shame, of course, that Yeni Malatya got dumped out. They actually made a fight of it in the end. They got a win in the second leg, didn't they?
Yeah, they beat Partizan 1-0, and they should have had a penalty that could have made it 2. And if it would have been 2, they would have been true. Obviously, they would have had to hold on to it, and it was like in the first half. But they were already 1-0 up at that point, if I'm not mistaken. So if they'd gotten that penalty, it could have been 2. And they could have actually eliminated Partizan Belgrade. So our opponents last season in the qualifiers. One of our opponents.
Right.
So it's a shame they didn't get past them, but they had a good run. 4 games, 2 wins, 1 draw. So 1 defeat. Unfortunately, that 1 defeat, they lost 3-1 in the 94th minute or something, I think, through a penalty. Had they not conceded that that late penalty, maybe they would have been through. But then they still would have had to survive another round. So, but yeah, I mean, any points help. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I was going to say
it's been
they got dumped out, but they got Turkey some coefficient points. So.
Yeah, and they had, they went out with their heads held high. They did a good job, Sergen and his men.
Yeah. But anyway, enough about Yeni Malatya, because of course there's Beşiktaş to talk about. And Beşiktaş had their home opener. They were playing against Göztepe. Most of you probably already know this by now, because we're coming in a few days late, as Kaan already mentioned. But just in case, just to keep your memory fresh, we'll run through this bit and talk about what happened. Without getting too much into the lineup, Kaan, what were your thoughts about the lineup going into this match? And just to refresh that for your memories for the listeners, Karius started in the goal. Domagoj Vida and Victor Ruiz started on the back line with Caner Erkin again on the left side, Gökhan Gönül on the right. Gary Medel was alone in the back of the midfield with Ozan and Adem Ljajic ahead of him in the midfield with Tyler Boyd on the left side and Jermaine Lens on the right. And of course, Guven Yalcin up front. So what were your thoughts, Kaan, before the game started?
Glad to see Ozan start. Of course, Dorkan fell out last minute, so he couldn't play. Not too fussed about that. Mainly, I think we were all a little bit surprised by Caner starting. I think we were kind of hoping Douglas could get his first start, but we were definitely assuming Pedro Rabocho would get his start. But that didn't happen. Caner started. So heading into the match, there was a lot of negativity. Personally, I have to admit, I was kind of negative too. I was like, same old. The only big change was no Quaresma. But
I was of course happy to see.
Didn't really.
Sorry. Yeah, I was happy to see Jermaine Lens out there. I have to say, but besides that, Gary Medel being out there again, with injuries and whatnot, perhaps.
Yeah,
have many
had
options
to be.
there, but
didn't.
Still, it's always worrying when you're going into a match and you're seeing those kind of pieces you'd pick apart. Caner again, especially after having a pretty poor first match. But big but maybe. Yeah, and it wasn't actually that poor of a first match. I think it was the last match of the preseason that was poor. The first match was fairly indistinct. It was more Gökhan Gönül who was poor, in fact.
Well, it was most of the danger came over Gökhan's wing in that game, I felt like, but it's not like he had a goal on his konto. And the thing, Caner was criticized last week too, but I didn't really think he did necessarily that much wrong. But he didn't really do anything good either. So
yeah, no,
I think we were all kind of expecting I think we were all kind of looking forward to see some of these new guys, and we're coming off of I think we're kind of like a girl who was in a relationship with a boy, and the boy was really good to us for 2 years, and then started cheating on us. Nah, that's maybe a little harsh, but started treating us a little bad, and we got burned again. We got burned a little bit, and now we're getting into a new relationship, and it's difficult to trust, that new part. Well, that's kind of what it's like, because I that's how I feel like. I want to.
Could be a boy too, right? That's the sensitive boys in the group chat.
But I want to have trust in Abdullah Avci. I want to have faith in him and all that. But it's something you need to earn. And he obviously, when you start off as a new coach at a club, there's not much not much credit you have yet with the fans. And no matter who you are, whether you're Mourinho, whether you're Pep Guardiola, whether you're Jurgen Klopp, if you come into a new club, you have to build up credit. Yeah, of course. And so thus far, Abdullah Avci hasn't had the opportunity to build up any credit. And you know what? It doesn't take much to sway people one way or the other.
So hold on, before we go there. Yeah. And so with that said, going into this match, we could even say he kind of dug into his credit a little. He started, using the credit card, going into debt with last week. The fans were getting on his back. And I don't mean that they rightfully should have been getting on his back after one match, but things were not looking good. The game got underway with this lineup that was not changed so much. And I got to say that first half probably did not calm too many of the fans that were on his back until, and this was, if you look at his timeline online, anywhere, the first moment of note, there were no cards given, nothing. In the second minute of extra time, to end the first half, Caner Erkin pulls up from the left side after I must say, a nice little run. Speaking of Caner, who also, as Kaan mentioned, was sort of unfairly criticized, probably as residue from the maybe poor preseason he had. But anyway, he chips in a nice cross to Guven Yalchin. It kind of trickles to him, and he slots it home very, very easily. It's almost unfair he got a goal because he had a particularly odious first half, I thought. But that was it. He was where he needed to be when he needed to be there, and there it was going into the halftime. Beşiktaş took a lead of 1-0 on Göztepe. What do you?
Fox in the box.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say about it, right? Like, perhaps a little unfair. You almost feel bad for Göztepe, but that's life, man. This is football.
Well, I wouldn't say it was unfair because I think Göztepe did absolutely nothing in that first half, and we hit the bar twice. I think.
I mean, unfair in that they probably felt like, okay, we're going into the half, having held them off.
Yeah. Plus, it's not like we created any clear-cut opportunities. It was just like always had a try from outside the box and hit the bar.
Well, I think
and Guven, yeah. So those could have both went in. But yeah, we didn't really do anything in that first half, and then there was, it only enhanced all the negativity. And I remember saying at halftime, it's like, look, guys, the main issue we're having here is just that midfield, and Medel is not contributing to the, to transitioning from defense into attack. He's rarely ever in position. He's not playing the ball true to the other players in midfield. There was a big void there in midfield in that first half. And I think there we could really see that lack of a proper number 6 that knows how to play possession-oriented football. Because the thing with Gary Medel is when he plays defensive midfielder, I think he's even now for Chile, I think he's playing as a defender quite frequently. But I think when he plays as a defensive midfielder for Chile, he's more in this ankle biter role rather than somebody like, for example, an Atiba who has to carry the ball, who has to bring it over and distribute the ball to the wings or to fellow midfielders, or not like a playmaker, but the way Atiba does it, for example. That's just something Medel isn't good at.
I mean, I can just to do a little fact check on you there. You are correct. But what's interesting is that this summer was both in Copa America and Gold Cup, Copa Oro, or whatever, summer. So I got to see Team Canada and the Chilean national side. And both of them, I don't know if this is a trend in the Americas, but both of them play with 3 defenders back. And Atiba and Gary Medel played as the central defenders on a 3-man back line. So that was a...
I think that's new for Canada, though. They have a new coach, I believe. So that's not something Atiba usually does. But for Medel, that's something, I mean, we remember when we got him, when we initially signed him, and the Inter fans and the people, covering Inter Milan, they were saying we don't like him as a central midfielder, but we do like him as a central defender. And I remember thinking back then, it's a Serie A, it's a higher level. I'm sure he can do a good job in Turkey. But I didn't really realize what the issue was with him. And now I understand. I think he's a good central defensive midfielder for, let's say, a mid-table team or a team that's like,
maybe like
in the lower regions of the league. Yeah, I mean, a team that's probably going to be not the dominant side in a match. I think in those types of teams, he can function as a central defensive midfielder, but for like a team like us, that just doesn't work. For a team like Inter, it just doesn't work. I think it's not ideal for him. I think we need a different type there, and that's a huge void we saw instantly there in that first half, and that improved in the second half, but was it due to Medel or was it due to another little tactical adjustment?
Not to mention having a 1-goal lead, probably had them being a little less cautious because suddenly they had to at least equalize. So, but anyway, in the second half, Halil Akbunar came in for Eren Derdiok. Halil had a pretty decent second half. I don't know if we'll have much reason to talk about him, so I'll just say that now. But it didn't really reflect on the scoreline. Just like 9 minutes after the half began, Beşiktaş scored again. And this one, it's funny. So they've credited Adem Ljajic with an assist on this. So here, Ljajic kicked it out to Caner Erkin on the wing. who lofted it in for a cross, and it was one of those fluke goals that just trickled into the far post, basically into the goal. And we have a 2-goal lead suddenly. Any comments there, Kaan? Caner Erkin, by the way, at this point has now a goal and an assist to his name.
Yeah.
So not bad.
Well, I actually thought it was another assist for Janner because I actually thought that Vida got a toe to it, but apparently he did not, and the goal was credited to Janner. It's not the first time that happens with a Janner cross that ends up fooling a goalkeeper because they are expecting the player coming in for it to make a contact with the ball and therefore get fooled by the curve of the ball. If you remember last season in the 2-2 against Kayserispor, that 2-2 in the final minute from Janner was similar in the sense that it was a cross coming in that the goalkeeper anticipated would get touched by a player. And
I mean, I don't have the matches to sort of think of offhand, but I feel like he's had a few of those, honestly, dating back even to maybe his Fener days or the national side.
Yeah,
I feel like I've definitely seen that a bunch, It's like that was a deja vu moment, 100%.
Yeah. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad cross, by the way, because that was actually a good cross that Vida almost got to. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a cross and that's a double jeopardy.
Exactly. No, that's exactly what you want to do.
Yeah. So it was a 2-0. It was a kind of. I think we started well, so it wasn't necessarily flattering, but it was a lucky goal.
And what it actually reflects, and it's a nice segue between what you were, I think, maybe alluding to as we introduced the second half and the goal itself, which is that the tactical change that really took place in the second half, and the reason things looked better, was that we kind of started playing something of a 3-man backline with Gökhan Gönül shifting in as a like right central back, and then Caner Erkin was much more of a kind of left midfielder with whoever was actually the winger ahead of him drifting inwards a bit, maybe.
Yeah, not even a left midfielder. At times he was just simply central mid. He was roaming.
Yeah, exactly.
It was dubbed the false left back, and basically what happened was, like you said, we would form basically a 3-man back line. Victor Ruiz would move more out to the left, Vida in the center, and then Gökhan on the right, and Janner would just roam basically. Umut on the Football Joga podcast pointed out that he was playing almost as a regista at certain points, and he was going. He was not just in that left center area. He was also, in the lower region around the mid circle, just roaming around in midfield, making it difficult, I think, for Göztepe also to properly defend him, also giving us a man up advantage in midfield. And that was the big key in the second half, why we were so much better than we were in the first half, is because we were now suddenly winning that midfield battle. And we've been talking about that for so long, it feels like, Sinan, that midfield battle where we seem so underwhelming, and now we had that man more situation, and also Adem Ljajic started growing more into the match because suddenly he started getting more balls.
Exactly.
Because otherwise there's always seems to be like too much distance in between Medel and then Ljajic, who's like the more offensive midfielder, and Medel, who's the more defensive midfielder. There's just too much space in between. There's not enough balls going from Medel either to Ljajic or to Oğuzhan, and there's just like a big void there in midfield. And with Caner moving in there, roaming around a little bit, we had more bodies, we had more possession in that area, and we just took control of midfield, and that could be reflected. And at the end, ultimately, the scoreline should have been higher than.
Well, and again, a good segue there, because sure enough, just 5 minutes later, it would be Adem Ljajic with probably the best actual goal of the match, where he smashed in a nice assist from Jermaine Lens, giving Beşiktaş a 3-0 lead. This was only in the 59th minute, so again, just 5 minutes after the second goal. And at this point, Beşiktaş is in cruise control. Göztepe seems to have lost their shape. They're still making the occasional run, which makes the introduction of Georges Kevin Nkudu in the 61st minute all the more eventful. He came in for Tyler Boyd to play on the left side, and yeah, he was sliding in very nicely behind, on counter attacks and making great runs. I'll just quickly run through the other sort of subs that were made. Castro came in for Uztekin. What's his Yasin Uztekin? Not one of my favorite players in the world. But so Castro came in for him. Necip came in for Gary Medel in the 67th minute. A few yellow cards were given out. Ruiz got himself a yellow card. I didn't even notice that. And then a bunch of more subs. At the very end of the match, Muhayer came into the game for Ozan. That would be in the 84th minute. So Muhayer got 6 minutes plus extra time. But the scoreline would read 3-0 at the end. Beşiktaş got 3 points in their season opener at home. Man, I mean, before we get into highlights and lowlights, I think the main thought here is, for me anyway, that the second half marked Abdul Avci's system really starting to shine. For the first time, pretty much as long as we've seen thus far. Because in the summer, it wasn't quite coming into effect. You can definitely, in his defense, say that he never really even had all of the pieces. He was shifting guys in and out. Guys were injured, coming back from international duty, etc. So
but I wonder if this is actually what he's planning on playing, or if this is just something he did because he felt like we weren't effective enough in midfield. And I'm wondering, if we get a 6 in that is able to fix that midfield issue on his own, so to speak, if we're still going to be playing with that false left back or that false right back, or if that's just something he's going to do in certain games where he feels like we don't have enough grip on midfield, I'm going to turn things around. So I'm curious to see whether this is more like a little fix inside the game rather than the go-to tactic we're always going to be utilizing, or maybe this is just something we're going to do at home in home matches more often than we do in away matches. I don't know. I don't know yet if this is the definitive way that we're going to be playing.
Yeah, I definitely. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes. I mean, on the one hand, you think, okay, it's a home match against the side that we should be able to beat, so perhaps it's something he felt comfortable, opting with there. But on the other hand, I mean, it's the second match of the season. Things have not gotten off to the best start, so it was nice.
And he needed this win badly.
It showed flexibility on his part. It showed his ability to react to a match. And frankly, I think that if Janer and the rest of that back line is now comfortable enough to play that way, knowing how to do that, knowing that that's like a tool in their belt, trying to think of a clever metaphor for that, another weapon in their artillery. But anyway, it's definitely something that they can fall back on when they need to, and you'd imagine they could kind of shift in and out of within a match.
Yeah.
So that's
of course.
Good.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, that's also why I assume Robocho didn't start, is because I assume that this is something they've been practicing for a while, and that Janar already, has under his belt, while Robocho was only there for 6 days. So, but I was a little disappointed that Necip came on and not Robocho, for example. I think at that point it was 3-0, so I didn't think it was necessary to put on Necip. You could have just put Robocho on and maybe move Janer to the...
or maybe make that Muhayer sub earlier so that we get more... I don't know. Necip, we know what we get with him. I think both of us agree. But anyway, I don't want to move on to the news item, because this would be a good segue, in that there is some news that could do folks like us who don't want to see Necip there happy. But before we get there, there's definitely some game to talk, some match stuff here that we have to wrap up. For you, I mean, and we can wrap it up because I think what we're doing lately with these episodes is kind of analyzing throughout the match talking points. So that's I think we've covered a lot of it already, but we definitely have to talk about who you think has merited the man of the match, the highlight, who stood out as a low light perhaps. I think we've talked about, you might have some hints from the analysis we've talked about earlier, but what do you think?
Again, I liked Victor Ruiz a lot. I thought he was good. And not necessarily a man of the match type performance because it just wasn't necessary. I like Karius. Very quick in his distribution, starting off attacks, very fluent. And he had this aura of confidence. I think he's gonna have a good. Knock on wood. I think he's going to have a good season. Not naming him as my man of the match, but just something I want to point out. So
he definitely instilled confidence in his back line. You could tell, and he even looks like he's really taken the, I don't know if it's advice or the training to heart. That I remember reading that Abdullah Avci was having him come out from the goal and play on the pitch a little bit, passing it, distributing it, controlling it, all that.
He was doing that too.
Yeah, it's starting to show. I thought he looked pretty good on the ball. I mean, not, good on the ball, but, good enough. And
he was good.
Yeah,
he's always been good on the ball. But it's just that I don't think I don't think Gunesh put too much emphasis on building up from the back, and that's something Avci is hammering on right now, and it's something we're improving on still, of course.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so then who do you give it to?
I'm going to let you give it to the obvious one, or unless you had someone else in mind.
I mean, I think I was going to go Janer.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to go Ozan because I liked him. I thought not necessarily man of the match either, because he didn't do enough for that, but I liked Ozan. We saw Ozan again. I think he was playing more as a right central midfielder. He was very involved on that right side in the first half, especially. I thought he had a positive game, and later in the second half, I really liked it when he and Leitch linked up at times, because they're just two players. The closer they get to goal, the more dangerous it becomes, and I think that could be something fun going forward. So I liked to see somewhat revitalized Ozan, and hopefully under Avci's guidance he can find his former form back. Yeah. So if it were up to me, it would be a new six, and then Leitch and Ozan would be my midfield. I mean, I don't think I've hit it at any point. I'm not a huge fan of Dorukhan. I think he's a good player, but I don't necessarily see. Not that I'm not a fan of Dorukhan, but I just don't really see a place for him in a three-man midfield that I would prefer to see. The type of midfield that I would prefer to see, because he's a very weird type of player. He's not a 6. He's not an 8.
Yeah, no, he needs to be in a midfield that's really suited to his, whatever his ability there. But I mean, the reason I'm going with Janer, it's like sort of a poetic choice, if you will. But I mean, on the one hand, I give him a lot of crap. I talk a lot of trash about Janer. I've been saying how he's been this thing that needs to be replaced most of all for But so when I feel like it's only right that when a player stands out in a positive sense, you've got to also be able to call it out if you're going to be capable of calling them out for the opposite. So I have to give him credit. He had a really good match. And not just because he got the stats. I mean, I will say this, that his fluke goal was so deserved in that the assist that he had, it's rare, I think, in football, but it's common enough that you almost wish that there was an alternate statistic for this. But every so often, a goal is much more the assist than it is the goal itself. And I think clearly the Guven Yalcin goal was Janer Erkin almost deserves credit for that more than Guven, So
it's a silver platter type of tap in,
That's why it was poetic justice that he got the fluke goal, because it kind of okay, you earned that. But I bet Göztepe fans would disagree there. But anyway, yeah. For me, I've got to be consistent in my ability to call people out for good and bad. So
he was the clear best man, so to speak. I mean, he was the key in this match.
yeah, and we talked about how he was a fulcrum, about how he even contributed to
Plus,
giving
after you made him-
Yajic confidence and Ozan and all of them by sort of shoring up that space in the midfield that's always vacated somehow.
And after you made him important, and I think he gave him responsibility, and he took that responsibility with open hands, and I think that's an important thing. I think it's a very important thing for a coach to give a player confidence, especially a player that's kind of on the down, like
exactly.
Janner has been last season.
And who's getting
since
slagged off by everyone.
Yeah, and I think it was important for Avci to give him responsibility. Some players respond very well to that, other players can't handle it. But yeah, Janner on the day did well with that responsibility.
For sure. But so then low light, Kaan, who do you think you could call out? Gouven, yeah, that seems fair. He was.
I was really like, he took the enjoyment out of it for me in the second half. And I was, I think we started the game well, actually. The first couple of minutes, I really liked it. The crowd was great. I was really behind the team. And then the Kudo came in the second half. And it was so fun to see how he just stepped on the pitch, and he was already clapping for the fans, and he was just like looking, and every time he got the ball, the crowd would go like, start fussing, and he like it's like he got this adrenaline rush every time he got the ball because of the fans getting behind him, and you could see that he enjoyed it, and that's something you don't really see on a player so often. I can't remember the last time I've seen a player respond that way to the crowd.
Yeah.
Most of the time I just have the feeling that players kind of just zone out of it, that they don't even hear it anymore, and that they're just doing their thing. But you could see that Nkudu was living with the supporters, and maybe that's because it was his first match.
Well, regarding Nkudu, I think, this could be a little segment where we talk about his performance, because I think it definitely merits a little bit of a discussion. And he was electric. His pace. I mean, I think it's very important for everyone to recognize that this was basically his first football in like 4 years, give or take, because he's been injured.
It's a slight exaggeration.
What was it, 3 years?
No, but he's played in those 3 years, just not a lot.
Yeah,
like
2,000
minutes or something, but that's like a season's worth in 3 years.
But I think
basically.
He had like 9 matches last season or something. Like, anyway, point being that to not just to enter a match, but to enter a match knowing that you're now a rotation piece. You're going to have guaranteed time. The team's committed a pretty big chunk of money to you, right? So I think he comes into this not just as a guy who's a substitute in a match, but as a guy who recognizes that his future is kind of like laid out before him. And that, for him, I think it must be such a... I'm really looking forward to seeing how he responds to that. And I really do feel that from what we saw, like the what was lacking was just sharpness, because his pace was clearly there. So the athleticism is, whatever injuries he's had, he's clearly past them. His touch, that was pretty much what was lacking. But you imagine getting used to... I don't know. But I like this touch. His first touch specifically, like, it was a little wild at times. But I mean, getting used to your teammates, getting used to like getting a feel for the ball at your feet, in a match, it's all gonna come. Yeah,
he was up against Gassama, who's one of the fastest fullbacks in the league, and he outpaced him. I don't remember a faster player at Beşiktaş that was that quick. Like extremely quick in acceleration. It was just very impressive to watch, and I think that's definitely a weapon in our arsenal that's gonna come in handy in certain matches. And I don't know, some people were criticizing like his intelligence there. I don't really know why, because I think he dove into the proper channels. He went the right direction, so to speak.
For sure.
I know, but I just that's one of the main reasons that I really am so annoyed with Guven, because in the first half, he just doesn't fulfill what we are looking for, what we expect in our system from a striker. Okay, you can't really blame him for that because that's not his fault, that he's not that type. But in the second half, like, Nkudu was on for like 30 seconds, and there's like this amazing opportunity where Guven just has to play the ball through, and Nkudu can basically tap it in within 30 seconds of coming onto the pitch. But instead of doing that, you can just see in Guven is that type of player where he's always gonna, he takes way too long because he's always looking for that opportunity to shoot rather than, oh, okay, if I just tap the ball through here, it's an easy tap in for my teammate, But he's just given, I don't know, it felt like he was taking half a century on the ball, and then when ultimately he decided to give the pass, the defender just blocked it. Well, if he would have given it it's only a fraction of a second, but if that fraction of a second he just plays that ball through, then Kuda has an easy tap in. And could you imagine him coming onto the pitch and getting off on just like on a flying start like that with a goal on his debut? That would have just lit a fire, just lit a rocket under his ass, or how should I put it?
Throughout the fan base.
That's something I kind of. Yeah, something I kind of resented Guven for, and just in general, I think he's not in that role, in that striker role. He's not really a great team player. I feel like he's just always just looking for that shot, which a good striker has to do, but to a certain degree. It was infuriating in this match, and I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I'm harsh on Guven. I'm always harsh on Guven, I feel like, but I don't know. He kind of took the enjoyment out of it for me in this game, even though he scored an important first goal. I mean, and we do say most of that is on Janner, but you still have to tap it in. You still have to be there.
Yeah, his pace got him
so
there. So
credit to him for being in the right spot.
I definitely would not say he had a good match besides that goal, obviously. My low light, though, I'm going to give it... I don't think Tyler Boyd can be given it because I don't think... He didn't shine, but at the same time, he didn't shine negatively either. So I feel like that's sort of important if you're going to give someone something like so ignominious. But so I'm going to go with Gary Medel. The first half, as we said, was, kind of highlighted his deficiencies. And although he was there for the turnaround, where we took control of the match, I don't think he was the reason why. As we said, I think it was kind of John Erkin taking on two jobs, and one of those jobs being, by and large, Gary Medel's, which is where we thrived and how we thrived. So, I'm going to go with Gary Medel. But, for reasons we've basically already highlighted, I guess, to be fair.
I felt it was one of those games where you don't really have lots of lowlights. No, yeah. Which is good. Exactly. I mean, it's not like we didn't play a great game, but I don't think there's anyone who deserves to really be singled out, except for Guven. But Guven. I mean, I'm being hypercritical in a sense, and it's just that I really wanted Nkudu to get off on a flying start, and he's really. Well, I still think he did. I think this was a massive confidence boost for Nkudu, whether he scored or not. But it would have been nice. It just would have been such a great little way to come in, like Kagawa did last year.
Yeah, sure. Well, that was beautiful. My boy, Shane.
Yeah, not even if you have a dream debut like that, it's not a guarantee for anything. So let's hope that Nkudu builds on this. And I'm hoping supposedly he left training injured today, but he put on Instagram that he's fine. So I hope he starts against Rizespor.
Me too. Usually I do this as a segue into analysis, but to close up our talk about this match, I'll just briefly mention some stats, a little stat flash. Beşiktaş dominated possession in this match, 67% to their 33. But Göztepe had 11 shots to Beşiktaş's 8. That said, Beşiktaş had 4 shots on target to their 3. So Göztepe, I'm guessing, had a lot of shots from distance. I don't really remember them being too dangerous throughout much of the match. So
yeah, that's all they did. I don't think they had a single opportunity, really.
One stat, though, that I do want to mention. Beşiktaş committed 19 fouls. Göztepe committed 9. I don't know if I can recall the last time Beşiktaş out-fouled their
referee was
opposition.
Ali Palabiyuk. That's all you need
Yeah, I
to say.
suppose so. Wow. I mean, it's marked here. One yellow card apiece, though, at least. Offsides, 5 for Göztepe, 2 to Beşiktaş. Beşiktaş has 8 corners to their 3, so that sort of spells the dominance that I think most of us witnessed. But so yeah, statistically speaking, a few surprises. Although not maybe, if you're looking at it without having watched the match, it won't give you a very clear reflection of it, I don't think. Certainly, Göztepe's 11 shots would suggest some sort of dominance going forward or holding the ball, which, even the stats show is not there.
That was just their desperation in a way. And I think, this is going to be a mild exaggeration, but probably 18 of those 19 fouls happened before the 1-0. Because that's one of those matches where Göztepe, they went down for everything, and any contact they went down to try and take the rhythm out of the match. And Palabiyuk is the type of referee that's always going to go for that. Yeah. He's gonna, he loves ruining games. What he does best. So
he's so bummed he didn't get to ruin this one.
Not even kidding.
But anyway,
he's one of those referees
for sure.
that loves to do that.
But yeah, moving on though, because I think we have to talk a bit about some other news before you pass out on air. But let's get into it now. We've already kind of alluded to it, and it's I don't want to call it official, but there's some news as far as a defensive midfielder, or a number 6, as some like to refer to one as. Tell us about it, Kaan.
Yeah, so Beşiktaş are in the market for a 6. We know that. We've known that for a while. We got our left winger last week. So now there were some names being thrown around. Mario Lemina of, I think, Southampton is a player that was being pushed to the forefront in the beginning of the week or so. He used to play for Juventus, went to Southampton, I believe, for 17 million like 2 seasons ago, maybe. He's being named, but then the name came out the other day of Thiago Maia of Lille. And he is a little bit more realistic target in the sense that he seems to be a little bit on the outs at Lille. And yeah, Murat Özen has confirmed it in the meantime. Firat Güner was the first one to break the news of TRT. Then Özen confirmed it. So Özen said yesterday, which is basically, I guess, Tuesday. Monday. He's basically said it could be done on Tuesday, the deal. And then today, TRT did say that the deal was done, but nothing has happened yet. So maybe by the time you listen to this, something official happens. Thiago Maia is highly likely to be our new 6, at least for the season. And there's probably going to be an option to buy included in his loan if it comes to fruition. Because obviously, like we learned it with Vitor Hugo, that nothing is done until it's actually done. Yeah, sure. So, but Thiago Maia is likely our new 6, and then probably with an option to buy. But numbers in regards to that option to buy are very varying. Lille paid 14 million for him 2-3 years ago, and apparently the option to buy would be either between 9 to 12 million. So that's a lot of money. So I don't really like that, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe it's like a 3 million loan fee or something. That would be good, I think.
Maybe they
can
like a
spread
6
it
out over 2 years. Like 2 and 2, and then like 8 or 7.
Maybe that's the holdup because Özen expected it to be done today. Maia is included for Lille squad to play Saint-Etienne tomorrow, which by the time you listen to this is probably today. Or has been gone already for days on end because you're slow on catching up.
Come on, you guys.
Yeah, so he's included in the Lille squad versus Saint-Etienne. So Yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see if it ending up being him. But one thing is for certain, Gary Medel will not be our 6 on Saturday, I believe. We play against Rizespor. He will not be our 6 because Gary Medel, like Sinan already alluded to earlier, is off to Bologna in Serie A. Beşiktaş will get 1.5 million euros.
Or 2.5, right? Isn't that still teetering?
No, it's 1.5. It looks like it's 1,250,000 guaranteed, and then 250,000 in added bonuses. So 1.5 total is what it looks like. But I think the main part is for us to get an aging player off the books who's on a top wage, 2.3 million a year. He's 32 years old, and he doesn't really. I mean, we've said it before. Gary Medel is a great utility player. He's a great bench player. I think he was our best backup central defender. So I'm kind of gutted in that sense. But he was too expensive for a bench player. So Gary Medel's off to Serie A. He said goodbye to the team. I kind of had to pinch away a tear when I was watching the video footage of that. I mean, it was emotional in a way. It's not like Gary Medel did all that much at Beşiktaş, but I liked him. I appreciated him. I think all the fans appreciated him, especially because he was such a fighter.
For sure.
So yeah, I mean, I wish him. We all wish him all the best, obviously, at Bologna, and hopefully they can stay up in Serie A and not relegate.
Hashtag gracias Medel. But yeah, man.
Exactly.
I have no hard feelings for the guy. In a way, I'll tell you, I just had, at first I was like, yes, this is good. Like, we need to clear up space in the books. And, we're getting Thiago Maia or whoever, and so this is necessary. But then I just had this thought that this means that it just means Necip is still
starting on Saturday, right?
Starting on Saturday. That's what I'm
thinking too.
And then B, just still around in general. I kind of would prefer Medel be the guy off the bench, the utility guy. It's a little bit of sadness.
Regard, there's some potential news in that regard too. Başakşehir signed Mehmet Topal, which means that Gökhan Inler might be allowed to leave on a free, and apparently Abdullah Avcı was very happy working with Inler for the past 2 seasons. He played a lot of games as well, stayed injury-free, played 52 games in 2 seasons for Başakşehir under Abdullah Avcı.
I always liked Gökhan Inler, and I never quite understood what happened with Beşiktaş.
I think first and foremost, he was on a way too high wage.
Yeah,
for being a backup, just like Gary Medel, basically. But now, if there's this possibility, he's 35 years old already, but there's a possibility that he might be coming back in for a year or so and then joining the technical staff, because another big news item, Orhan Ak resigned.
Yeah.
So that could mean, a spot for a guy like Inler, a guy like Atiba next, on the technical staff in the future. Inler might be coming back to Beşiktaş as obviously a backup rotation type player, and maybe to become part of the technical staff. What I mean? Yeah, for me, if he's on a low wage, say 400, 500, 600, I'm completely fine with that. I think it's good to have an additional player for the rotation in midfield, and especially for that 6th position.
We don't have to say it. It's Necip, right? It's just one more person to keep Necip out of the lineup, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because of course, he is still very serviceable relative to playing Necip. I don't have a problem with it. Why not? Especially if he's cheap. He gets along with the coach. He makes the coach comfortable, settles him and his system. Whatever
plus international experience with big clubs like Napoli, and then of course in England won the league title with Leicester City. Didn't play much, of course, but he's got those experiences under his belt. It's something he can help younger players, because we're starting to get a lot of those. And if Thiago Maia comes in, kid's 22 years old, could definitely use some guys around him like a Gökhan Inler, like an Atiba, to help him along. Those are 2 players I think who are coming to terms with their career drawing to a close, and I think those are both, especially Atiba, of course, really positive people in the dressing room that can hopefully help a young player like Thiago Maia become a better footballer if he comes to Beşiktaş. So but then there's 2 other hot news items when it comes to the midfield.
Yeah.
One is Rafinha of Barcelona. So basically, Rafinha Alcantara, the brother of Thiago, who plays for Bayern Munich, and for some reason I called him Fabinho on Football Hala Turca. I was already tired 2 hours ago.
So yeah.
Anyway, so Rafinha, his manager, his agent was actually at the game on Friday, and apparently he sat down and had a talk, some conversation with some Beşiktaş officials. From that talk has come the result that Beşiktaş have now gone and made an offer, had put in an official offer with Barcelona. So Murat Özil said the other day that this, whether it'll happen or not, we'll probably know by Friday or so. So let's hope, fingers crossed, maybe we can get Rafinha. That would be a great get, I think. I believe you watched him play the other day as well for Barcelona when they were playing, because he actually started the last 2 games for Barcelona.
So for Barca, it's interesting times because, of course, Messi's been out with minor injury.
And
Luis Suarez is
and
out.
Suarez.
So they're missing a few pieces, and it's good to know for whoever picks up Rafinha next that he's still very serviceable. He's still a part of Barca's rotation. I think Barcelona has had ties with him for a very long time. They're probably kind of doing him a service. Of course, he could still play for them in this role, but I think what they're basically saying is like, how old is he now?
26. 26. He's just 26.
He's so beautiful. I love that age. But still old enough that he's not like, certainly for the level of Barca, he's not at the prospect stage of his career for them. I think it's like wherever you need to be starting. And frankly, like if we're really looking at who he is relative to European football, he'd be a starting player for 95% of clubs in Europe. I would say, and that 5% being the obvious candidate.
It's puzzling that he hasn't found a club yet, because I mean the thing is he's coming off an ACL injury. He was at Inter on loan at Inter, and he got injured, and I think that's also why Barcelona are starting him now in these first couple of games in the season, just for him to get match fitness,
to show the market that he still has it, right? Like.
Yeah, of course, and Valencia are also rumored to be interested. So I think it's going to be tough for us to get him, but it will be a great get for us, I think. I mean, we don't need an 8, but we could definitely use a guy like him because he can play in so many different positions. I mean, he can play in a 6 as a 6 in a pinch. He can play as a 10. Say Laic is injured or suspended, he can play instead of Laic. He can play in the. Yeah, he can play as an 8. He can play on either wing, like you said. So he's really a very versatile player that can play. Is very good at both the attacking part and the defending part of the game. So even if it's just for like a 1-year loan that we can get him, he does have an expiring contract with Barcelona, but it is said that Barcelona will extend his contract before giving him to any club, like loaning him out or anything like that. It's because they probably want to get a fee or something for him still, even maybe not necessarily like a huge fee, but they still want to get something out of him, which are entitled
like
to.
I just said, he could start. There's no club in a vacuum in a pinch that wouldn't put in an offer. I think the detractor for him is that it's late in the window. A lot of these clubs, the window's already closed.
Yeah. I think the main issue with him is he's a very talented player, and usually a guy of his level would probably go for 40, 50, 60 million. The problem is that he's 26 and he's already had 3 serious knee injuries. So he's, big clubs aren't going to take that risk for a really big fee. So I could actually see this guy go for under 10 million. So I could see us, for example, try and get a loan and with an option to buy or an obligation to buy or something, whatever. But anyway, we're nowhere near that phase right now. I mean, it looks like we've got Thiago Maia, so they're not the same. They're not players for the same position. I think we could perfectly get both of them. I think it's also kind of implied by this next thing that we are looking to get maybe a player in another midfield role still, because Manuel Fernandes has had, he's been a free agent for the last month or so, and he is currently in talks with several Turkish clubs, including Beşiktaş. Beşiktaş have supposedly been in talks with him and made him an offer. I got the impression it's more like a tentative offer. TRT were reporting that there was a deal for 1 + 1 year at 1.1 million a year, but then Murat Özin came out and refuted it, and he did say, look, it's possible that my info isn't correct or something, and other people's info is correct, but from what I know right now, there is no deal yet. Beşiktaş did make an offer, but he has better offers from other clubs. There's a club from Russia offering 2.9 million a year. Supposedly Gazi here are offering 2 million a year, and Beşiktaş are offering like 1.5 or something. But that does imply, I think, the interest in Fernandes that's been confirmed does also imply, I think, that Beşiktaş aren't just looking at getting a 6, but also at getting an 8. So it also increases the chances of us getting both Maia and, for example, Rafinha or Manuel Fernandes. Fingers crossed that it would be Rafinha in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, they're both. I mean, Manny's pretty good too. I mean,
yeah, of course, Fernandes is still great, but he's 32 years old. Plus, we also know that with Manny, you're always bringing in some baggage. And the thing with I was almost calling him Fabinho again. Rafinha. The thing with Rafinha is that I think you're bringing in an upper echelon talent.
Guy,
a Barcelona level player. I think you're bringing in a really good player that could lift us up to an that's in a sense a surplus move maybe. But I think he could lift the level of our team.
What's so funny about it though is like it is surplus. I mean, his game is like surplus in a funny way because he's just such a utility guy, and he's so. I mean, but at the same time, in a vacuum, right? If you really look at just the player and his ability, he'd probably be the best player coming into Turkey this summer. Like, and I mean, like, I'm thinking about like Max Bruce. No, Rafinha has more to offer on his day. Yeah. Who does Galatasaray have? Like. Falcao, if they got Falcao. Nzonzi? No, come on. Like Rafinha. In fact, Rafinha could be one of the most talented players to come into Turkey in the last 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, since
I'm racking my head. Yeah, I think.
Anyway, yeah. He'd be a great get, no doubt. I mean, whoever gets him, and he's even been linked with Fenerbahce prior to being linked to us. Supposedly, his agent also had a meeting with them or something. I don't know if that's actually true, because I think there was a report in Oyogo in Portugal saying that, but it wouldn't be the first time that they confuse one Turkish club with another. So I don't know how much truth there is into that. Plus, Fenerbahce are really focusing on getting 6.
And someone was like, "Oh, Istanbul! I know Fenerbahce. They're in Istanbul."
Yeah, who knows? So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. I think it's a really difficult transfer for us to get, but if we can pull it off somehow, I think that would be a great transfer for us. Even if it's just for a year.
Last side note, I saw an article and it said that the main reason that Barca wants to extend him is so that they have the option then to loan him out with the option to buy. So for clubs like Beşiktaş, who couldn't buy him outright, that's very good news because it suggests that among the many offers they've gotten, they now want to extend him so that they can do that loan option.
Yeah, and that's why I don't know. He might end up going for on a loan to Valencia for 20 million option to buy. So don't quote me on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out on a loan with like a 6 million option to buy or something.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised at all because of those knee injuries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now we're dreaming. Now we're in dream territory. So close this out, Kaan. I think you've got a little bit more. I don't know if it qualifies as dream.
Well, so I talked about almost everything. Well, you know what? Just my personal hunch. I think that we will in those last. I think we will probably make a move for Vincent Aboubakar in the last 2 days or so. That's my hunch right now.
Yeah, that was sort of the dream I was alluding to. Yeah, so striker is like the last piece of the puzzle missing that we've yet to talk about. It's so nice to be able to say that the defense has been shored up, right? We no longer have that weighing over us. Ruiz and Robosho are both, I think, everyone seems to be fairly pleased. There's not any uproar there.
Yeah, we haven't seen Pedro yet, but Victor Ruiz has been great.
Victor
Yeah,
Ruiz has
we've all,
probably been our best player all around so far this season.
Yeah.
He's been. I mean,
It's been 2 games.
You don't want to be dramatic, you don't want to be dramatic because it's been 2 games, but there's something kind of dramatic about his performances because he's already lending a kind of veteran presence. I dare say even kind of leadership, which is wild for a guy who's 2 games into his career with us. But he is on the older side. I don't.
Yeah, but how nice is that now to say that the 2 oldest guys on our squad right now are 30 years old? Oh, I'm not counting Gökhan, of course.
Well,
No,
yeah, but he doesn't count. He's timeless. I mean, he's another potential player coach option long term. But we even have Douglas as his to spell him. So no, I mean we've all been Ali Naibid this summer. We went into it not knowing what to expect. We got dark, things got a little grim, and then it's like we got punked. We got Naibid.
Punked in a good way.
Yeah, we got Naibid. He slid out the moves on us. He had us all hating, and then bam, look what he came up with.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here. If we end up signing Thiago Maia, which look, Thiago Maia is considered a flop at Lille, so I'm not gonna say he's a great signing in the sense of that he's gonna be like great for us, a guarantee. He's definitely not a guarantee, but I think he's a good get still. He's a good risk to take. If let's say we get Maya, and if we would then be able to pull off like a move for Rafinha and maybe like a decent striker as well. I mean, that's, I think, arguably the best window in history, transfer window.
Not even debatable. Because like, you think about the biggest one would have to be the Simao, Almeida.
Yeah, no, I mean, not just in terms of names, but just the fact that the players we've gotten in this window, there's not been, look, even in our UCL, when we had a really good window where we got like Sergen, we got Numa back, we got Sago, we got Junti was in January, but still we had a good window where we got a lot of good Cordoba, we got some great players, legends, but we also signed Zafer Demiray, we also signed Serdar Toprak Tepe, we also, we had these signings where you're like, you're like a Mehmet Akgün. Why do you waste your money on that basically type of signings? And we haven't had that so far. So far it's been all Laic, Pedro Rebocho, Victor Ruiz, Tyler Boyd, Kevin Nkudu. So I think that's the 5 guys we've signed so far, and those are all guys for the first 11. Those are all starters.
Think about the peripheral guys that may have been, in previous eras, the type of guys that would have been sort of wastes. Think about who they are. We've got Güven Yalçın, Dorukhan, and Muhayyer Oktay so far, pretty much, right? Like those are the young fringe guys that we've brought in. All of them are sort of successes already by most metrics. So I don't know.
Muhayyer still has a ways to go, but I mean Dorukhan's definitely already a success. I mean his value's gone from like say 200,000 to 7-8 million maybe. And I wouldn't be surprised if he still leaves this one.
No, it's not impossible by any stretch.
And I think that would be best for him and for the club, by the way, because I think that we need a guy like for example like a Rafinha. I think selling Dorukhan to let's say, I mean, Udinese might not be the best club right now. I think they're having some stability issues in terms of the leadership of the club and all that. But I think like a club of that stature, let's say a Genoa, I think that would be amazing for Dorukhan for his next step in his development. And I think he's kind of, for what type of player he is, I don't think he has much left to learn in Turkey, even though he's only really played at the Super League as a starter for 6 months or so. But I think he's already ready to move on. And we've seen that plenty already from players in Turkey. Like let's look at Merchetin from Gençlerbirliği. He hasn't even played Super League and he's already off to AS Roma.
Yeah. And I mean, the fact of the matter is that Dorukhan he's earned enough plaudits, enough press that I think the Mert Jetin stuff like that actually bodes really well when you start to think about, at least the prospect of there being interest for Durakan. I don't know if we're gonna get the price we want from everyone who's interested, but yeah, I mean,
yeah, I mean, for me, the main thing as well is that, like, I'm just a little bit scared when it comes to Durakan. I got the feeling he's a little injury prone, and maybe it's just coincidence that he had some injury problems towards the end of last season, and then he's struggling now. But I don't like those. I don't like the writing on the wall, So for me, it's kind of like, just get a good price for him now. Hopefully it'll be good for his career. But let's say he's gonna be one of those players that's constantly in and out of one injury, then we did a good job. I don't think we're gonna ever get like 15-20 million for Durakan anyway, even if he has a good season. So I think that if we can sell him for like 8 or so, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I'd counter that there's no way for us to get that money, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, I think at this stage,
I don't think 8 is impossible.
At this stage, we definitely take what we can get, and given the investments we've put in thus far this summer, it doesn't hurt to try to recoup some of that. And again, it's a position of, especially if we get in a guy like Thiago Maia or whatever, like it could be a position of redundancy. Again, I don't want to be opening a portal for Najib to jump through, but whatever. We'll cross that road when we get there. But yeah, I mean, as far as the striker goes, I think it is kind of a need, even if
it's really quiet right now about the striker, and it is like you say, it's a need. So either they're really confident in Burak being back,
which
soon,
I don't like. There was a picture of him during the match, and he did not look too good. I'll be honest.
Yeah, but he was on. Why didn't he look good? Because he was on crutches. He was
like wrapped up and on crutches, and just kind of looked like he was. He wasn't. He was putting a lot of weight on the crutches. More than like. It looked like he was still not so good as far as putting weight on his legs.
Maybe he's just not allowed to put weight on his foot for X
amount
of days.
And it's a picture, like he could have just been goofing around. Like who knows?
Yeah. Remember Jermaine Lens looking like a fatty, and he ended up being like the fittest guy on the training camp or something like that. Yeah. So I mean, pictures. But anyway, I don't know. I mean, for me, I think regardless of whether Burak is back sooner than we expect, I think we need a striker anyway, because I don't think, and I would love for us to loan out Guven with like a guarantee to play type of deal like we did with Laren. Laren, by the way, starting every match for Zulte Waregem right now. Has played 5 games. He has not scored yet, but he's gotten 3 assists already, I believe, and he's won like 1 or 2 penalties, and they're happy with him, by the way. So hopefully that means they'll buy him.
Or he'll come back and become the next Black Eagle striker. I'm kidding.
Well, I'm kind of hopeful that he's gonna do really well, and that there's other clubs gonna come in to try and buy him, but they have the option to buy, of course, for like $2.5 million. So if there's gonna be interest, they're obviously gonna buy, and then they're gonna be like, oh yeah, here, sure, buy him. But the main thing for me is just get that wage off the wage bill, because. I think we're gonna be putting some graphics out once the transfer window is done. But I think we'll be tweeting out some graphics that Egehan's gonna make of Beşiktaş's current wage bill and stuff like that, because we've got some of the data, and it's looking really good compared to last season. It's almost right now. It's almost 20 million lower than it was last season. That's a lot. That's like a 40% decrease or something. In our wage bill.
No, I mean, we've all been Ali Naibid. That's all we can say. But so
I can only praise him. I think he's done an absolutely tremendous job, and it can get frustrating that we don't really know what's going on, who we're in for, and stuff like that. But on the other hand, it's also kind of like, because when the news then finally breaks, it goes so quickly. It kind of feels like it's Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
Christmas morning, and you're just, oh my god, what is this? And he's just done a great job. I think it's the right way to go. Keep it quiet as long as possible, and then just wrap it up. And plus, I really like the fact that we're going for profiles. Really,
oh my god, how did
profiles.
You know I wanted this?
Exactly. And that's we didn't, and that's one of those things we didn't. I felt like we didn't do in the past. Like we'd need a striker, but the profile of the striker. What do you need? A target man? Do you need a poacher? Do you need this? Do you need that? Like for example, when we got Wagner Love, that was not really the profile we needed. No, but even let's say that Wagner Love was still like in his prime. It still wasn't
the guy we need. Yeah.
We were really looking for at the time.
We needed Gomez. Damn it.
Well, it's about what the coach wants in his system, and I think right now with Sinan Güneş wasn't really a system
I don't
coach.
think he knew what he wanted. Yeah.
No, but Abdulhafchi is really a system coach, so he really needs specific types of players for that to work. And that's why we appointed him. So I think it's more important than ever to get him the players that he needs. Yeah. Plus, I mean, let's say Afchi is a total bomb, doesn't work out, and we get a new coach. I think with the material that we've gotten so far, any decent coach could do something decent with that.
And build with it, man. It's young talent. Thiago Maia. If this really happens, that 22-year-old adding to this core, it's just phenomenal, man. The work that's being done. Because you're not just filling holes. You're building. You're building a foundation. You're creating the next generation. Like it's materializing in front of us. It's exciting to watch. And the thing is like, if we had this kind of summer last year, we could have had that same exact season. We could have finished even in 4th place, and we would have been like, you know what? It's okay. We're seeing something come together. There's a vision. There's a pathway. We have a direction now. That's
true.
why last year was kind of such a waste, because not only are we not getting anything, but we're also not even building for anything. So this in one summer we've kind of fixed a lot. We've checked off a lot of boxes, so it's nice.
Yeah, and that's one of those things. Like Özcan was asking me, like, don't you feel like Rafinha is kind of like we don't really need him? It's like luxury, and like in a way it is, but he's the type of player that if we don't get him now, we'd be going for him in the winter, because it's gonna be a case of, okay, our starting 11 is good. We have, let's say, Thiago Maia, who worked out hopefully, and then Laiç and Oğuzhan, and we have that midfield. But then we don't really have anyone to, if Laiç isn't there, to replace him. Like look at our squad. The only player we have who can replace both Laiç and Oğuzhan is Muhayyer, and he had a very promising training camp. But do you really want to put all your eggs in that basket?
No, I mean, I'm not even particularly comfortable
I think you need
putting them in the Ozan basket, because I feel like...
Exactly. I think that's how many people feel right now. So I think a guy like Rafinha isn't necessarily a huge luxury. I think we kind of need it, but it all depends on how you look at it. I mean, do we urgently need it? No, we
not compared to what we
needed a left back.
Exactly.
We urgently needed a left winger. We urgently need a number 6. That's what we need right now. But I could see the need within very near future for a Rafinha type. I mean, at the end of the day, I think any club would like. Well, most clubs could do with a guy like him. Yeah. C'est ça.
Yeah, I think we can let you go to sleep, Kaan. Your bedtime has finally arrived. But so close us out, man. Twitter. What do we have to look forward to? I guess let me quickly say before we part that, of course, we have another match coming up. This coming match is on Saturday. We're playing against Rizespor, which, as we all know, is not an easy match. We're playing at home again, though, so that's interesting. 2 home matches in a row. But yeah, we're going to be playing. It's 2:45 p.m. here in New York City, which means it's another late one. It's the late night fixture in Turkey. Check your local listings. I'm not even going to do the math.
9:45, I think.
Boom, there you go. Kaan steps up to the plate. Hits it out of the park. Yeah, but so...
I'll just quickly check to be sure, but I'm pretty sure it's 9:45.
Yeah, check your local listings. For those on the East Coast of the United States, I can definitely say it's at 2:45, though. Which is... I love those games, personally. That means it's also going to be on BeIN USA, probably, because most of the other leagues... games have already finished by then.
Yeah. Oh, and Sinan, you found a very nice piece or video, I think, video report on Tyler Boyd's journey to Beşiktash, which people should check out in the States on BeIN. Maybe add that to the description. And for those of you who can't watch it, use a VPN. Set your location to New York so you can check it. So I'm still
having. Put it on YouTube. I hope. I don't know if BeIN has a YouTube channel. They should. That's super unprofessional. They don't. But yeah, it's a nice little segment where they kind of talk about his upbringing. How it actually kind of explains the New Zealand USA thing a little more clearly. It actually I remember the Tyler Boyd episode very distinctly, but I wasn't aware that his folks had actually been living in the United States before
until he was 10.
No, but even before he was born, and then they flew back just to birth him.
He was born in New Zealand, then they went back until he was 10, and then they went back to New Zealand.
Exactly. So it's a wild story, but I still feel a little bad for New Zealand's national side just because he actually played for them, so they probably thought he'd been locked up. They'd given him the number 10 even, But, I certainly, as a Turkish American, I don't even know how to go. But it's nice to have this connection now. Ameriturk. This connection to club and country a little bit, where I still don't have a Boyd shirt, but when that day arrives, I'll be able to kind of, get some extra looks on those grounds, I suppose, here in New York. But anyway, nice little segment. Check it out. You could probably just type in BeIN Tyler Boyd, and it'll pop up. Yeah,
and maybe Sinan can put it in the show notes so you can.
Yeah, I'll put in a link.
Check it out.
Yeah, exactly.
And for the Twitter handles, guys, just check the show notes. Don't make me say it.
But there's one thing I have to say, which is go Beşiktaş!
We're back,
baby.
We're in it. Right. Still 8. Whoa. Just a couple more days and half-time English shit. Everything will be clear next week.
The windows coming to a close. Finally, no more talk of transfers. We can focus on the transfer.
Indeed, and I can relax without having to do new player episodes.
Looking, hunting.
Beşiktaş International hopes you enjoyed this program.